All right, welcome to another episode of the Logicast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Gunnar Eos and Esoteric Skills. This week's topic is about AAA games going all digital, specifically Black Myth Wukong. So, Black Myth Wukong came out a little while ago, and it's been a highly anticipated game. Looks like a pretty good game. I haven't played it yet. I've seen some gameplay of it. I don't plan to buy it right away, at least, and I'll explain why. The topic is a reason as to why. Spoiler alert. And so this sparked the idea of like, well, let's just talk about AAA games going all digital and why we're not huge fans of it, but also why it's done, why it's necessary. So we have a article from GameDeveloper.com, and this is an old article. This is from last year, May 31st of 2023, but it's relevant to the conversation at hand. So the article is about Alan Wake 2, which was one of the more notable AAA games that decided to go all digital. Um, and funny enough, this is one of the reasons why I didn't buy Alan Wake 2 because I was actually looking forward to Alan Wake 2 um, because I like horror games in general. And when that was being showcased for the first time, I was like, okay, that's something I could play. And then I got the news that it was going to be digital only, which totally soured me on the game. And I said, you know what? I kind of want to play it, but I got to stick to my guns here. I'm physical forever, so um, I'm going to dig my heels into the ground here, and I'm not going to buy it. And funny enough, fast forward a year later, current year, they are releasing a physical copy of Alan Wake
Ah,
2, at Best Buy and GameStop and all these other places. And I think it's coming out later.
learned the error of their ways.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily an error in their ways per se, and then we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
good things come to those who wait. And will I get Alan Wake 2? I don't know. The luster has definitely uh, you know simmered down since then. So I'm not really jazzed about getting Alan Wake 2 anymore. Would I have purchased it last year? Possibly. There's a good chance of that. So um, yeah. So basically, the topic at hand is digital game or AAA games. High quality games, air quotes, being all digital day one, available digital, only digital day one, and Wukong is one of those games. So Wukong has been a game that's been talked about for the last 4 to 5 years. I didn't believe it was a real game, to be honest with you. It just looked too good for for modern consoles to play, but it is real. It did come out, and it's digital only. Now, there's talks about it going physical, and they do plan to do physical copies. But for me, that's not good enough for a day one purchase, right? I was already on the fence on the game in general. I've become a little more frugal with my money, and especially when it's surrounding, game collecting and stuff. And so yeah, now that it's digital, I was like, okay, well, that gives me a reason not to buy it. But it has done very well. It has sold 10 million copies in its first 3 days. Um, and Gunnar could talk about the specifics around that, because he kind of showcased some data I wasn't privy to prior. But yeah, what do you guys think about? I'll pass it to you guys, and then we could talk about it, and then we'll dive into the article. So, what do you guys think about AAA games going digital day one and only being available digital?
Hmm.
Hmm. Oh, you want? I'll go after you. Okay, hit a
Oh,
mess attack.
I mean, well, you got the data, Gunner. So I'll just say this, right? To be frank, I personally do not like it. I've never been one for digital titles. I'm not a fan of it. Me being a gamer with in the gaming sphere and whatnot, I enjoy collecting my titles. I love to see my library, reach a certain threshold. I love to collect games and stuff like that. And I don't like you know the fact that games are moving to digital. Um, I understand from the perspective of the company as to why they're doing it. However, as a consumer, I'm not too fond of it because it's not ownership. I don't have I can't. physically touch a digital media. Also, if I'm in a rut and whatnot, I'm unable to take that digital media and maybe give it to someone who may be able to utilize it for financial gain. Um, I'm just not a fan of it. I really am not. There's been situations with game stores that have uh, put media up and then have taken it down. You know what I'm saying? Things of that sort. Um, Also, I'm pretty sure in the future there's going to be instances where systems are not going to allow you to even be able to download that physical media. I mean, they're doing it now, right? But I'm pretty sure that once everything goes full digital, there's not going to be backwards compatibility through a certain point in time. I just have that gut feeling because if they're only transitioning to digital, I'm pretty sure it's more not only more of a financial play, but more of a like control play as well. Um, and yeah, I kind of fall into the same mindset as BlankaKong. Alan Wake. I recently played the first one a while back, maybe sometime last year. Um, it wasn't the best game in my opinion, but it was interesting. And I wanted to follow suit and play Alan Wake 2. But unfortunately, it was a digital game at the time, so I decided not to buy it, not to pursue it. Wukong, same thing. I've been following this game since like the initial trailer, and I was kind of skeptical at first, much like Kong, in regards to how the game played, the graphics, and things of that nature. But then when it became an actual thing, I was extremely hyped, like super hyped for the game because I like the lore. Journey to the West, good story and whatnot. Um, but the only thing that kind of snapped me back to reality was the fact that it was digital. And I'm not gonna be one to say, like I don't buy digital games. I do buy digital games under the caveat. There's two caveats with that. So one being that it's an indie title, because for those of you who know indie titles, they don't have the financial backing to afford distribution. um so I support them in that way by getting it digital, and then the reward at the end of that would be them actually coming out with a physical copy. There's have been several indie titles that I've purchased digital, and they were able to financially back the distribution in a physical media. So that's one of the reasons why. And also their price points are a little more digestible for my wallet. You know what I'm saying? They're not fully priced. They're somewhere between maybe 20 to 30, 30 to $40. And that's a little more easily to like let go of, as opposed to like a 60 $70 game, right? Another thing that I do, which I also hate, is collector's editions, which in its own right doesn't make any sense to me to begin with, because let's say, for example, Spider-Man 2, a game that recently came out sometime last year or the year before. It had a collector's edition, had a nice statue, 18 inches of Venom, or 19 inches, for those of you who got that joke. Um, and it came with a couple of other things as well. And then it also came with a steelbook case. So under that assumption, it's like, oh, well, if it's coming with a steelbook case, then it should come with a physical game. No, that was not the case. It came with a digital voucher. And
Ouch.
yeah, and I was livid because honestly speaking, like it's a real stupid business practice to me. I'm sure some of you guys who are watching probably say, "Well, you're an idiot because you purchased it anyway." Um, but I'll let you guys know like what I do to kind of mitigate that in a sense. But yeah, it's kind of stupid because of the fact that you're making a copy, you know, um, a steelbook case for something that is digital. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm the type of person that's not going to put another game into a different case if it doesn't if it's not the corresponding case. Like I'm not gonna put Spider-Man Miles Morales in the Spider-Man 2 case. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm searching for my games and I'm looking at my catalog and I want to play something, everything is going to be in disarray. I'm not going to know where anything is, in that regard. So what I did do, however, is I trade with someone who wants to get something digital. So I say, hey, I got this digital code that I got from the collector's edition. I'll sell it to you for the price that you would pay for Spider-Man 2. And with that money, I'll go get a physical copy so that, the person who wants digital get what they want and I get what I want. So there's a way to kind of like circumvent that. But overall, like, again, I'm not a fan of digital media in that sense. I don't like the business practice, although I do understand its effectiveness. I don't like it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. So how about you, Gunnar?
All right. So, unfortunately, as much as I hate to admit it, I think this will slowly or rapidly become the norm. PC is already like this. It's been like this for a hot minute. Funny enough, the Alan Wake was epic. Was an epic game. So a lot of the justification they used for why the game, well, why they felt the game should be digital only was a lot of stuff we've said before on previous podcasts and in personal conversations. Pretty much it boils down to money. So if the developer and the publisher keep the game digital only, there's a lot of things that they essentially save money on. They save money on physical storefronts, so they don't have to, they don't have to give a cut to GameStop, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, so on, Amazon, so on and so forth. Even though Amazon's more digital, but like the brick and mortar places that still sell video games, and they don't have to incur an expense for the literal physical aspects of the game. The box art, the cover art, the physical Blu-ray. They don't have to worry about all of that. Like, when you look at a Blu-ray, you just see, like, what you spend on it. So you spend $70 to access a PlayStation 5 or Xbox game, right? A modern game, $70. Now, times that disc, that physical game that you paid for, by millions of copies. And that's what the publisher has to pay in order to produce these physical games. You take all of that out, in theory, they save millions of dollars, which translates to millions of dollars worth of profit, which is at the end of the day what the suits want, right? The developers want to make a good game, usually, but the suits want to make money 100% of the time. Now, while PC has kind of fully embraced that, with, the Epic Game Store, Steam, and, the various other storefronts. Activision has their, Ubisoft has their own, Activision has their own, EA has their own, the list goes on. Consoles are slower to kind of adopt. Now, the digital storefronts like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, they've become way more common. And we have seen multiple studies. If you guys watch our podcast with any regularity, you've heard us talk about how digital is rising in terms of the dominant way people access video games. The pandemic definitely kind of helped accelerate things. It was on its way before, but that definitely helped accelerate things. And let's be real, humans are lazy. We can be extremely lazy creatures. It's a lot easier for me to sit down and press a couple buttons, enter my credit card information, unless it's already saved. I don't even have to go through the trouble of doing that, and buy a game, as opposed to get my ass up, get dressed, brush my teeth, walk to the game store, wait in line potentially, and buy a game and go home.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's that simple. Like, it's a lot easier for me to just buy it digitally than get it physical.
Yeah.
But with the news that Alan Wake 2 is coming to physical, it could be anecdotal, but for me that shows that it, at least with consoles anyway, we're not there yet. Because the only reason why they released a physical is because there had to be enough of a deficit where they feel they can get some of the people who didn't buy the game because it was digital. Because if the amount of people asking for a physical and taking the actions like, Kong and me, where we're not even like, even if we were interested in this game, the fact that it's digital only now kills any and all interest. There had to have been a sizable enough portion of guys like us for them to even consider a physical release. Because this isn't a physical release kind of like Baldur's Gate, where Baldur's Gate is another game that's digital only that does have a physical release. Baldur's Gate did their physical release because they wanted to just double dip. They wanted to, because their physical release comes with all this other stuff. It's like hundred plus some odd dollar physical release. It comes with like dice and art books and a soundtrack and a bunch of other knickknacks. They're doing that for people to like buy it and put it on their mantle as a collection and then still play the digital game. Alan Wake, their digital game, their physical game is just the physical game. There is no special collector's edition. You don't get an FBI jacket. You don't get a gun with it. You don't get none of that. You just get the game.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the case of Alan Wake, they did it because there was a sizable enough population that wasn't going to buy this game at all unless it was physical. Now, in the case of Wukong, I mean, the game's doing well, especially in China. Like, this is a point of national pride for China. So because of that, and because of the sheer volume of people in China, the game is selling well. Good for the game. I'm, got no hate against it. But I don't know if Wukong would kind of go the same route as Alan Wake, because if you guys, if anybody listening to this knows kind of like the goings on in terms of like the what is it, the public perception of Wukong, like Wukong is the current uh hashtag gamers darling, right? Because it makes mainstream journalists upset. So, it's in the news, it's relevant, people are talking about it, but I don't see that game ever getting a physical release. Now, supposedly there is a physical release planned, and it could be like what you said, Esoteric, that even though this is a AAA game, this is still from a relatively new studio in China. So they might not have like the distribution channels or the startup currency to invest the money needed in a physical edition. So that's why they did what the indie games usually do and release a digital version. And then with how much money Wukong has made, I think they now have the capital to do a physical. So we could see a physical. But I mean, anyway, TLDR, it all boils down to money. They want these games to be digital because they get to cut out a bunch of middlemen, and realistically, the only people they have to pay are Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Steam, and all the other digital warehouses, so they can sell their game. That's it, which is a far cry from printing hundreds of thousands of discs when your game might not sell well. So that's why they want digital.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said makes a lot of sense. I do understand it from, a company's perspective, because they definitely do relinquish a lot of responsibility, allocation in terms of like distributing their stuff to the middlemen and having them have to deal with advertising the game, having them have to actually, sell it. We have a mutual friend who works for a company who comes into GameStop and make sure that their stuff is advertised. If everything was digital, they would pretty much cut her out of the equation and not have to worry about these things. So I understand like the profitability aspect when it comes to just trimming the fat, and just dealing with the direct to consumer option. However, as a consumer, it's just like, man, it could also just be a bit of bias, me being a old gamer, grandpa gamer or whatever, and just being so accustomed to being able to hold my media in the palm of my hands. They've taken a lot from us over the course of the years. We I'm sure you guys remember, but we used to buy a game. It used to come with a manual. It used to come with other little advertisements here and there for the next big game. It even used to come with one of those like those little cardboard papers that had you write down your information and what you rate the game and things like that. And those little things I actually used to do. I'm pretty sure a large majority of people probably didn't even read the book or didn't even do that. But I was one of those people. So I'm pretty sure they found reason to kind of like get rid of those aspects of like the packaged games, but now they're just getting rid of the media entirely. And I am happy that there are some people who are like standing and kind of like taking a stance on, no, I'm not getting this game because it's digital. I like physical. And these companies are like, well, it looks like we're getting a big hit here. Let's make it physical. And under no circumstances am I advocating for like, oh, like sticking it to the suits, don't give them their money or whatever, because beneath the suits there are a lot of people who've built the game, who are working towards it, who has families to feed and whatnot. It's just me personally, like I am not giving out my money because a certain thing wasn't delivered, for me personally. So with that being said, like, I get you. I definitely get all your points there, Gunner. And I just hope that, they could come to some common ground in regards to like, okay, well, we're gonna predominantly put things out digitally, but we're gonna have physical distribution like they did in the past. But I'm probably asking for too much. It's probably just wishful thinking here.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at this graph on the game developer article, and in 2018, digital sales made up only 32% of console software sold, and fast forward to 2023, it's 51%. So it's over half now. So there is quantifiable evidence that more and more people who are playing on consoles are buying their games digitally. I just think it's still too soon to go all digital and not have a physical option, which unfortunately does not bode well for us, because all that means for the corpos is they just gotta wait. They just gotta wait it out. Maybe give it like 2 years, 3 years, and more people, like guys like us, will grow older, and not necessarily us, but guys our age will phase out of the gaming market. They might not buy games anymore, and all it takes is for Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, their next console to be digital only. Xbox is well on their way to doing that. Sony's not far behind. Nintendo might hold out for a couple years, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. All it takes is for those consoles to be digital only, and then that's it. It's GG. It's over. Digital will be like the standard, and then the companies are like, cool. So now we just cut out all of that physical marketing, all of that, cutting brick and mortar stores a check for housing the game, and the fear that if our game doesn't do well, then we're just going to have a bunch of physical stock just sitting there and potentially ending up in landfills like a game called Forspoken. I don't know if Forspoken going digital only would have saved it. Probably not. I don't think there's any force under the sun that could have saved that game. But I'm pretty sure Square Enix wouldn't have lost as much money if they didn't sink a bunch of money into physical discs. So
Yeah,
that could also be another thing. It could also lessen the impact of a game bombing, because at least it was digital only. So we could try to recoup some money by shaving 30% off that price, throwing it up on the PSN store, and maybe someone will buy it because it's like, all right, it's 30% off. Now I think I'll buy you. With a physical, I mean, that's up to the store at that point, because they have so much of it in their store, they got to get rid of it. So,
yeah,
a lot of things you could do to manipulate the price if it's kept within the digital realm.
that is true. I just find it mind-boggling. Like, quite a few years ago, we were making fun of Microsoft for, their installation discs, and other companies were chiming in by making, parody videos on, like, oh, here's how, you guys remember the famous Sony one where it's like, oh, here's how we share video games, and then how one person handed off the game to the other person,
Oh, right, yeah.
I just find it funny how they were laughing at Microsoft, and now almost every gaming entity out there are following what Microsoft was trying to do many years ago. So I mean, it's just mind-boggling how the mindsets have shifted. But then at the end of the day, it's all about the money, like you said. Like if the money is responding positively to a certain action that's being taken, they're definitely going to continue that. I mean, the point of these companies, as you already stated, is to make profit. So with that being said, it was just for Sony and the other companies, it was just a hindsight is 2020 type of thing. They couldn't visualize what Microsoft was going for, and then they realized, oh, they were actually onto something, and now they're kind of following suit, which sucks. So yeah. But I think we spoke a lot. What Kong has to say about all of this? Pretty silent over there.
Well, I was letting you guys get your thoughts out. I didn't want to interrupt. So we got a few things here. Let me just find it on the article. I wanted to go. Okay, so in the game developer article, under the headline, "A disc version is riskier for Epic Games to publish." Once development of Alan Wake 2 is complete, it will enter distribution channels for release to market. The profit margin on each copy sold enables Epic Games Publishing to recoup its publishing investment, including all advances used to fund the game's development. Developer Remedy Entertainment will not see any royalties before these advances have been fully paid. Given the generous publishing terms at play for a AAA single-player title without post-purchase recurring revenue, Epic sees it as an imperative that it does not just recoup these costs to ensure its new publishing operation is sustainable. It must fulfill its pledge that partnering developers receive a generous cut of wholesale profits as royalties. On the PC platform, Alan Wake 2 is being published via Epic Games Store, a distribution platform fully controlled by Epic, with its costs largely being absorbed internally through economies of scale. However, when publishing digitally on console, Epic does not own or control the digital distribution platform, instead receiving a cut of the revenue from every copy sold via Sony's and Microsoft's digital PlayStation and Xbox storefronts. This distributor cut can be up to 30%, according to Omdia's Games Tech Market Forecast 2023. At a macro level, an estimated 17% of games market revenue is taken by digital distributions. With a physical retail release, there are even more additional costs. On top of third-party licensing fees paid to the platform holders, Sony and Microsoft, Epic must pay for the manufacturing of each disc and surrounding case, It must also cover shipping, insurance, and storage costs for the physical product, while also ensuring the retailer takes a cut of the final sales value. Demand may also be overestimated, leaving unsold inventory to be heavily discounted. So this is, to me, the biggest reason why companies like this want to go full digital. It boils down to what Gunnar was saying before. It's all about profitability. So to give you guys more context, I worked at GameStop for a long time, and as the years kind of went on, I started in 2009, and I recently left that place. I was on and off. Like, there was years where I left, and then I came back a few years later or whatever. But I was there for about 10 years total. Like, if you just rounded up all the time that I actually worked active, about 10 years working there. And the profit margins for new games, I mean, the difference is substantial. So back in 2009, the margins for a brand new game was anywhere from like $7 to like as high as $15, which is like uncommon at that time. It was more like $10, but like, you know, depending on the game, you know, it could be as high as 15. At least that's what I remember. At the tail end of my time at GameStop, the margins were more like anywhere from $3 to like $5. And when you take account into, like, you know, global inflation in our economy, those $3 to $5 doesn't go as far as it used to 15 years ago. So the margins were real slim for the retailer, in this case GameStop, and those margins are consistent across all retailers, I'm pretty sure. So like, whether you're talking about Best Buy or Walmart or Target or whoever, the margins are the same, right? Because Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, or publishing companies like Capcom or Activision, are going to have a universal price. Like, hey, you want to stock our game? Great. This is how much we sell each unit. This is your cut. And because of the population shift in digital consumers versus physical consumers flipping, it gives retailers less negotiation power to negotiate a better cut, right? Because it's like, well, do we really need you? You know, like, you make up less than 50% of our overall sales. Like, you need us more than we need you. As far as like Sony, let's say Sony talking to, like, you know, GameStop or Best Buy. So the profitability piece is a big part as to why they're going digital, and I get that, and I understand that from a consumer standpoint and from like a business standpoint. I understand it. Do I like it? Absolutely not. I still hate it, because as a consumer, like you said before, Esoteric, it's about ownership, and I like to have, like you said before, listen, call me old if you want, but I like to have my physical media. I like to see the disc or the cartridge. I like to see my collection. You know, I just like to have it in my hand. It's something about it. I don't know, you know, whatever. That sentiment.
It has a story behind it. It has to me. It has a story behind it.
Absolutely. And that sentiment is going to die eventually with our generation, right? There's going to be the generation after us. You know, the people who are now in their 20s and soon to replace us in the market, or are replacing us in the market, will not have those sentiments for the most part, and so the market will adjust. And if companies see an opportunity to increase their profit margins, they will absolutely attack that position and take full advantage of it, as they should in a lot of ways. So there's that. You did mention how times have changed, right? 12 years ago, maybe, Microsoft was crucified on E3 stage for their new policies, having a DRM on all their physical games and digital games, having a 24-hour check-in or always online policy. They were fucking basically executed, and Microsoft and specifically the Xbox division hasn't recovered since that. Right, they're still trying to recover from that gigantic fumble to this day, which is a part of the reason why Phil Spencer, who was appointed as, you know, head of Xbox, he was kind of given a demotion because, you know, they just kept buying studios and, like, I'm pretty sure an executive was like, "We're spending a lot of money, and we're not seeing a lot of that money come back," and so he kind of had to step down. It was like a unofficial demotion, but like the lady, I forget her name, but she used to be like a big wig at Activision. She's now like the head of Xbox. Um, I don't know, I forget her name, but like, anyways, the attractive black lady who does like the Xbox conferences now, like she's like the head of Xbox.
Oh,
Yeah, she
yeah,
took
yeah.
Phil Spencer's
Okay,
old position.
the face is coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember her name. Sarah
Damn,
Bond.
Phil. He just needed.
I think that's, I don't know. Doesn't matter. She
My boy just needed more gamer shirts, and he would have been
Yeah,
alright.
nah, that would have hurt the budget. But anyway, the point being is, had Microsoft did that 12 years ago today, it would be received totally differently. Like, it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And that goes to what Esoteric was saying is, and I think Gunnar had mentioned it too, you just got to give them time. And that's what they're thinking. Like, we just got to give them time. The old heads are going to age out, and they're going to be out of the market, or they won't have the hold on the market as they do now. And the new generation is going to replace them. More people are going to age into adulthood and get into the workforce and have money and all that. And more people are going to retire or die or whatever. And so the market will always, the house is always going to win in this respect. We have the money to wait it out. We're going to wait it out, and it's going to work out for us in the end. Us being the company that is, right? I had another point, but I lost track of it. But what do you guys think about some of the stuff that I brought up? I'll let you guys respond. If you don't have much of a response, I can keep going, but I didn't want to go off on like a 20-minute rant.
No. Unless Esoteric has something, it would just be reiterating the same points pretty much. So if Esoteric has anything to add, because it's yeah.
I mean, yeah, same here. I mean, it's pretty much it's pretty much redundant at this point, because we all are aware of both sides of the field, even though we only stand for one side, because we're not a part of any of these companies and their practices. And although we oppose their practices, we absolutely understand. Like, it's all about the financial gain. It's all about what we can get. It's all about profit gain versus profit loss, and they're gonna find the most the easiest of ways to maximize their cost efficiency. Excuse me. I feel the whole situation with Phil Spencer, though. I know this is kind of getting a little sidetracked. I feel like he was setting things in place, and I feel like I believe her name is Sarah Bond. It's going to ripe fruit for her, because now with all these studios that they have acquired, with everything kind of pushing to digital, it'll be easier for these different what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it. Kind of lost my train of thought there. But pretty much the different companies that they purchase underneath them, it's going to be easier, I feel, for them to develop, because more money will be allocated towards them into creating games, because they are producing less physical and more digital. I just pretty much say that to say that I understand that it's coming. I'm not happy about it. But, objectively speaking, it's the right move for these companies to go with. Yeah, it sucks, man. It just sucks.
Well, I was checking. This game developer article is pretty good. Like, I was checking out while you were saying, and something that caught my eye is like pretty much the second to last article in the second to last paragraph. Sorry, in the whole article, where it says, because Alan Wake 2 is a single player title, earnings from full game purchases become increasingly important in the absence of post-sale recurring revenue. So Epic Games Publishing currently has no plans to release Alan Wake 2 on disc. Hindsight's 2020, because it is coming on disc, but this was written back then, last year. As sales of the digital version mature and reach a discounting phase, a disc version of the game's more expensive deluxe edition becomes a viable option if it wishes to reach the shrinking physical games market. So that so
Oh
that
my
ending was
god.
very like it's like you could tell some like diabolical Doctor Evil was like in his volcano. It's like listen guys, this is how we get more money. We release it digital. Those retarded boomers that only want physical, they get upset. We release a physical edition, but make it the deluxe edition and make it $10 more. It's 80
Yep.
bucks now. They'll eat it
Yep.
up. And it's like, wow, I didn't
Or
think of that.
or they'll succumb to just purchasing the digital because it's more financially appealing now because we reduced the price as opposed to the physical copy, which they've been anticipating for this entire time, but it's too expensive because they were expecting it to
Right.
be 70 as opposed to $80. That is diabolical. That is
Which it
so
kind of makes me
diabolical.
feel a little bit better because the Alan Wake that it's coming out is not the deluxe edition. It is the base game. So, hey, I'll take my little W
No,
when I can get it.
it's the deluxe edition.
Oh, it is? Oh, so they did
Yep.
it. There you go. They
It's the
showed their
deluxe edition.
they, they exposed their plan and it's happening. I mean, not with me, not getting my money, but it's gonna happen with somebody. So it's just like that's even more like it's like we already don't have much. So instead of just putting us out to pasture, taking us behind the barn and putting us out of our misery, they're like, no, we got you. We'll give it to you. Give me $80. And like you see it a lot with like companies like Limited Run. They come out with what was recently announced. Recently announced was the Castlevania, right? They're putting as of the recording of this episode, they recently announced at a Nintendo event that they are releasing all the 3D all DS, sorry, not 3DS, the DS Castlevanias, digital only. Who comes in like a fucking knight in shining armor for us physical plebs? Fucking Limited Run. Which is, and they're charging a premium for it because where else are you going to get it limited? I mean, that might change down the line, but it's like now limited has become a it's become a very very like niche market to the point where you can upcharge the poor bastards like us who want a physical cartridge or physical disc and are in some cases willing to spend 10, 20, 30, so on and so forth more than the base price. And we see it right there in that last paragraph of the article. Once the game sells, especially if it's a single player game, because there's no recurring revenue, it's not a live service game. There's no battle passes, there's no I mean, it could be DLC, but there's nothing to kind of keep milking that cow known as the gamer. It's like, okay, cool. How many of those scrubs are still asking for a physical edition? Okay, cool. Give them the $90 collector's edition. It's the only way to get the physical. They'll buy it.
Yeah, and they're still shoving digital down your throat because they're giving you a digital edition of the Alan Wake remastered. So it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah, so you don't even have like the comfort of going, well, at least it's the complete Alan Wake series. No, bitch, take your digital code.
yeah, that paragraph is very enlightening. Like,
So hey, anybody listening or watching, if a game is digital only and you want the physical, you can get it. It's just going to cost you $20 more, maybe, if that, maybe 30 or $40 more. Take
and,
it, buy the game.
and you know what? You what you get is what you pay for, right? I am I can sleep better at night knowing that although I had to pay extra $10, like this is just hypothetical because I don't know if I'm going to even still get Alan Wake 2 at this point. But I can know that I sleep better at night knowing that okay, this game will forever be there so long as I take care of it. And if I have any financial issues, I can always trade it in for some monetary gain, as opposed to Sony or Microsoft saying, "Hey, by the way, we are raising the price for our game store or whatever for the their corresponding internet packages, or for those of you who haven't purchased Alan Wake digitally, too damn bad. We're taking it off the store, so you're SOL. You know what I'm saying? So I can sleep better at night. That even though I have to pay an extra $10 to have the physical copy of the game, at least I have the physical copy of the game. There's no aside from someone breaking it or stealing it, or it's becoming defected, there's no way for me to ever not have this game. You know what I'm saying? So it's a battle of what you get is what you pay for. It sucks.
It's bad. And now we just saw one more evil way they can just like nickel and dime the gaming industry to the point where it's just like, what's the point anymore?
Yeah, it's if I had to like analogize it, it's kind of like you're renting a car and then they ask you, you're already spending like $600 a day, and then they ask you, well, do you want to put that $8 of insurance just in case something happens? And then you decide not to, and then just so happens that you have to come out of pocket because some stupid idiot came out of nowhere flying down the block and hit the car. So now you got that $8 covered medical bills. It would have covered your medical bills, your ambulatory bills. It would have covered the other person's bills or whatnot. Not to mention you got to worry about whether or not the state you're driving in is a fault or no fault state. If it's a no fault state, both parties are in trouble. So all of those things encompassed into one bad situation would have been resolved within a matter of $8. So I correlate that to, well, do you want to have the physical copy of the game where you get to keep it, nothing happens to it, so long as you retain it, as opposed to, oh, you know what? Your system had some type of bug, and because you logged in, it wiped out all your data. I didn't forget about that. I didn't forget that situation with Sony where the people logged into their accounts and everything that they purchased, their entire purchase history was wiped away clean. And I'm pretty sure Sony was like, well, since you're one of the 20 people that this has happened to, tough titties, you have to deal with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Digital's the future, man. All right, I keep being told. Which unfortunately it is, whether I like it or not. It doesn't
absolutely
matter.
The future. So
yeah,
when we saw that Alan Wake 2 was getting a physical release, the knee-jerk reaction was, I guess it didn't sell too well. But like you read at that last bit of that article, it was kind of like Plan B, or an alternative route that they've already anticipated. And I, even before knowing this and reading this article, I wasn't gonna buy it. I was gonna wait and see, number one, to see how much of the content is actually on disc, and number two, for it to be available used for less or be on like super sale or something like that. They're not getting my $80 either way, right? And they're not gonna get anything from me if they do the whole 5% of the game is on disc, the rest has to be downloaded from our servers, then I'm not buying it at all. It's not even worth the disc that is printed on it. So
yeah, literally.
Yeah, so at that point I wouldn't buy it at all. And then before, you guys were what else did you guys say that I wanted to respond to? I gotta take notes during these conversations because I have something, but then I don't want to cut in. Because I've done that a few times and it's not cool. But yeah, anyway, that's the digital future. It's not looking great for guys like us, but that's and to be real, I don't even mind that they're doing the whole we're gonna kind of upcharge the physical consumers. I get it, they gotta make money. This stuff isn't free, you know what I mean? So a part of me understands it. And it's not necessarily all evil. Being profitable and making money being a business person isn't an evil thing. However,
it's preservation.
However, it is there are practices and there are philosophies that I think are unethical and immoral. So there are a lot of practices that these not specifically these guys, but like in general, like the whole battle pass stuff, the online service, games as a service, model. I hate all that shit. The gotcha games, I hate all of it because I think it's built on predatory philosophy, in my opinion. Now, if anybody listening to this, or if you guys feel like, no, I disagree, that's fine. Like, you can dive into that stuff if you want to. It's your money at the end of the day. It's your time. Hey, I'm worried about me. But to me, it's like you said, diabolical was a great word. It's diabolical as fuck. So I won't be buying Wukong. I'm not buying Alan Wake 2. They both look like fine games, but to be real, I've got a lot to play in my backlog. I've been collecting older games. I've been recently. I've been working on cataloging everything on my phone in an app, in a more convenient app. Because before I would have like a notepad document, and I would just have a list of everything, which works, but like it's not. If I'm at a game store or whatever, and I need to quickly see if I have something already, it's just easier to have like images and dates and all this kind of like in an easy consumable format. So I'm working on that now, and doing so makes me realize how many games I have that I haven't even started yet, and it's like, why am I getting excited for this new game that I probably won't play right away, and when I do decide to play it, it'll probably be like a $20 game at that point, with like full patch support, and like all the bugs will be gone, and there might be a Game of the Year edition that like has all the content on disc. I could just wait for that, However, I am a part of, I think, a minority of the gamer consumer population that does that. Most people fall to the FOMO. They want the game right away, and they'll double dip. They'll buy digital and physical, and they'll buy the DLC. Like, those are the guys and gals that these companies want to go after because that's where the money is. So, and I don't blame them. That makes sense. But I'm a little smarter. I'm a little wiser, and hopefully, doing a topic like this in the podcast in general, I think for anybody who's listening, and who's made it this far, I hope that you leave with a little more perspective, and hopefully that perspective allows you to make better decisions with your, probably limited resources, not just in gaming but in general. I think it's a life lesson that I'm a little annoyed that I've learned this late. I don't want to say late in my life, but I wish I had known this stuff, or I felt this way and practiced these philosophies 10 years ago. I think I'd be better off today than otherwise. But you live and you learn, and if I could pass that ideology and that way of thought on to other people, then cool. Like, to me, that's a win. So yeah.
Hindsight is 2020.
This is very true. So, you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, not really. It's another chapter in the black pill known as modern gaming in the year of our Lord 2024, and like you said, it's good to have a backlog. I also have a backlog of 3DS games and a lot of Switch games that are fully physical, and PlayStation 4. I've been doing that too. I've been trying to scoop up PlayStation 4 games. I recently got Dead Rising 1 and 2 because I'm not interested in the Dead Rising remake for a different reason, not a digital reason, a different reason. So it's like, all right, let me get that PS4 copy, since the glorious master race system known as the PS5 has so many epic PS5 games I could play. I decided to buy PS4 games. But, there are things to play. I don't have to engage in the modern gaming sphere. I'll dabble in it every now and then, but this is where we are. Digital will be the standard eventually. Maybe next year, the year after that, maybe in 5 years. But it's going to happen. It is happening. And eventually games like situations like Alan Wake 2 will not be abnormal. They will be the norm. Sad as it is for guys like us, because I know some people love it. So that's just my final thought on the whole thing.
Yeah, as for me, it's kind of conflicting because, given the podcast, which is an extension of like the overall Logical Gamers brand, and what that entails is playing games, a variety of different games, and some of which that are new and engaging and interesting from my perspective. It just kind of sucks that although understood, it just sucks that they're taking this business practice because it's my principles are way more important than anything. And I know that with me standing on my principles, it's going to kind of uh, not allow me to have certain access to games because of the fact that they are digital. So it really sucks. I feel like I don't think it's going to stunt the growth of the channel or anything like that because there are still people who are there's a plethora of games that people are interested in, both new and old. And also there's several different takes pertaining to one game. However, with your viewers, they want to see what you think about that game. I'm sure there's a lot of people who know that they're interested in something, but they're just curious to ask you, like, hey, what do you think about this game? I've been playing it. What are your thoughts on it? And some of the stuff they might be shocked to, some of the things they might be enlightened with, but they just want to know what's your take, what's your position, because they want to know you. They want to know just particularly your thoughts. So although I did say I'm conflicted, I'm not too worried because of the fact that there are so many other things to play. There's a large backlog, and there are millions of gamers who probably haven't seen some of the backlog that I plan to play in the future. So,
True.
with that being said, I'm not too worried, but it definitely does suck because, again, me following Wukong from the first trailer and wanting to play this game, but the whole digital aspect just turned it off for me. Um, and yeah, I got to stand on my principles. I got to make sure that it's like, listen, this is what I want as a consumer. This is what I would like to have, and if you're not delivering on that, then I can't give you my money. Um, and another perspective too, it also sucks because we have a viewer who wants me to play Alan Wake 2 because she suggested Alan Wake 1, and you know it's like, yeah, you've been following me for quite some time. I greatly appreciate it. She's also a friend. And it just sucks because it's like I do want to play the game for her just so she can get my take and what I think with the game, how the game will be, what my perspectives are. But I can't do that because my principles are way more important than succumbing to buying a game that shouldn't have only been digital, in my opinion. Now that it came out, it's coming out physical. When it gets a little cheaper, I'll be able to do that. But I did say, I was like, listen, if you're going to outright buy the game, then that's fine for me. you
Hey,
know, so there's some common ground there. It feels kind of shitty, for lack of a better word, because I don't want to have to do something off the strength of like, oh, you paid me to do it, unless it's like a job or whatever. But like, I'm sorry, the only way to kind of circumvent my principles is for someone else to put their money up, get me the game, and then that kind of like allows me to play the game without breaking that rule or whatever. I said I wouldn't buy digital. I never said I wouldn't install it if it was free. So there's that. So.
I've that's fine. Like, I don't blame you, but like for me personally, I still wouldn't play it, even if I had a free code, um, because it's not about the money. It's about
The principle.
it's about the principles behind, like, just my expectations as a consumer. And for some people, there might be others that like hear us talk and just kind of roll their eyes and go, "What a weird hill to die on." It's like,
Oh, I believe it.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's fine. And I've had this conversation with people in person in the past. You know, not friends or anything, but like just other human beings. And they would go like, "Why do you even care? Like, why does it even matter?" And it's like, well, it might not matter to you, and that's fine. Like that, you know, that's your perspective. To me, it matters for the reasons that we've already kind of discussed, and you know, also like, and this is the thing that a lot of people I don't think about. Uh, the practices that exist in our industry, in the hobby that we, and I say industry, we're not in the industry, air quotes, but we're in the hobby attached to the industry. These business practices can easily find their way into other industries and other aspects of your life. So, for example, we talked about it, I think, briefly when we met up a few days ago, last weekend. You know, the whole like cars having like a subscription service for like heated seats.
Oh my
What the
God!
hell?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's such
yeah.
a weird concept, but it exists because it has been proven to work in the games industry and the movie and it's, you know, TV industry, the whole subscription model. And it's like, well, shit. Car industry is like, well, how the fuck did we get some of that sub money? You know, and so, and they're figuring it out, right? And I'm sure that for the convenience factor and whatever, if they build the business model properly, most people will probably pay for it, right? And whenever
That's
they get
slimy.
that,
Oh my
you know,
God.
whenever they get that, you know, profits report, and they see that line of like how much money they've made from people who have subscribed to this service that people may or may not use, then it's like, Jesus, like, okay, all right, what else can we do, right? And like, it's only gonna get more and more. It's gonna get. I'm gonna say more and more egregious. It's already egregious. It's already not cool, but it's only gonna get worse over time. And that's what some people don't realize or don't think about, because a lot of people just lack foresight, and I was one of those people when I was a lot younger. I didn't think about
Yeah,
things ahead of time like the way that I do now. Brother, I was that
yeah.
guy who would like cringe to check my, like, you know, checking account because I went hanging out with the boys over the weekend and I wasn't even paying attention to how much money I was spending. And I was like, guess I got $10 for the week. Like, I could never do that now. Like, that's
Yeah.
like, there's no way I could do something like that. That just, I get uncomfortable thinking about, you know, even doing that. And that's just a lack of
Mm-hmm.
foresight and a lack of maturity and all that. And granted, that was 15 years ago, more than that even. But my point is, there's a lot of people who still, even at my age bracket, still operate that way, which is like crazy to me. But it is what it is. And without listening to other people and gaining other perspectives, and watching other people, you know, it's hard for you to grow because sometimes life experience doesn't necessarily give you all the tools you need. Sometimes you'll learn things from talking to other people and listening to what other people do. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. I should incorporate that into my life or into whatever, right? And so that's part of the reason why I like doing these kinds of topics, because while our, you know, we don't have the biggest audience in the world, and you know, our viewer count is laughable, but I don't do it for the personally. I don't do it for like to become some internet celebrity. This is just a good reason to chat with the boys every time we record. We record once a week, and you know, hey, whoever does decide to listen to this, maybe they'll leave with some sort of new valuable perspective or tool to add to their toolkit of life that can make them, you know, a little more responsible or whatever, right? Not that
Or
not
to
that I'm
like,
like some sort of fucking sage or whatever. I'm not. You know, I'm very aware. I'm just a dude. On,
yeah,
you know.
I was gonna segue into that, Kong, and say like, you know, or they might be able to chime in within the comments and let us know something within their perspective that would be enlightening to us that we
100%.
can
And
kind of
that's my
follow
favorite
too, you
part is
know?
when we get comments and stuff, and like even the negative comments. I actually prefer the negative comments, if I'm being real honest with you. As toxic as that may sound, I love reading negative.
It's polar thinking, you know, and we can kind of uh, speak in regards to that, kind of have a little debate and under. I get what you're saying because you're not saying that because it's a bad comment that's why you like it. It's more so that you get to
there's
read
value
someone's
in,
way of thinking. That's
yeah, there's
yeah.
value in that for me, even if it's like negative and it's shrouded in insults or whatever. I can look past that and see it, like
Same.
see what their perspective is, and it might influence my perspective. And so my old perspective and their perspective might morph into a new perspective that I can adapt as my new perspective, if that makes sense. So yeah. So anyway, this is about Alan Wake and Wukong. So yeah, let's take it back to that and wrap up. So Wukong has sold over 10 million copies in 3 days. It's done very well for itself. About 3% of those sales are North American. And what was the other stat? It was like, what, 87? Let me see if I can find it.
81.6%.
So let's see. Here's the chart. So for those watching the video, this chart here, 81.6% was China. And then others, which is the rest of the world, is 14.4%. What's that other flag there? Is this Russia?
That's Russia.
Okay, Russia. Okay. I am cultured. I know flags. All right, so Russia was 1.3%. So the fact that Russia was the other nation that they represented here in this like chart, and the fact that like others is just lumped together, it tells me that it's less than 1% for every other nation that has purchased this game. So I don't know what that really means. I could speculate. I don't know. But hey, at the end of the day, 10 million units sold. That's comparable to, God of War Ragnarok, 5 million copies sold in its first week. Monster Hunter Rise, 4 million copies sold in 3 days. Cyberpunk, 13 million copies sold in 10 days. Elden Ring, 12 million copies sold in 2 weeks. So like 10 million is nothing to scoff at. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, 10 million copies sold in 3 days. That they're hitting Pokemon numbers as far as the metrics are concerned on a surface level. So, props to them. Good for the Wukong developers. They do, apparently from what I've heard, they do plan to make a physical copy down the line. And I'm sure it's for the same reasons that, Epic did it for Alan Wake. It's just like, let's see what the market says. Let's see how well we do. Once the dust settles, we could talk about physical distribution, because now we have an idea as to how well the game will sell on a physical storefront. And if it doesn't sell well, it's not going to cut too deep into our profits that we've already accumulated from the initial sale. So it makes sense from a business standpoint, but from a consumer standpoint, it's a little annoying to deal with. And but it on a personal standpoint, it does work out for me because to me, it's like, well, if I get the game later, let's say a year later, the game will be patched out, and I'll probably get a physical edition of the game at a lesser price, because even if it comes out a year from now, I'll still wait an extra 6 months to another year for it to be like a $30 game, maybe, or $20 game. It's like, okay, cool, now's the time to get it, right? Like, and to me, I get the most value for the least amount of money, and the money I would have spent was converted into time waited, which is time that I need to spend playing other things or doing other things anyway. So to me, at the end of the day, it kind of works out for me. It's just I missed out on that day one experience, which I think is overrated, and I'm okay with not having any. So with that being said, congratulations to Game Science. I think that's Game Science. That's the publisher for this game.
Correct.
For those who want Alan Wake 2 physical, that's coming, I think, in October. So look out for that. And that's the end of our podcast. So for those listening, if you made it this far, thank you very much for your viewership. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a like. If you disliked it, then leave a dislike. Comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. What is your stance on physical versus digital? What is your stance on Wukong success? Let us know down below. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts like this every single week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We cover a variety of topics, from industry news to opinion pieces. We do tier list episodes sometimes. Sometimes we just do open-ended conversations about a game that we played recently. things like this. So definitely check out the content, subscribe so that you're notified when we have new content. We also have 2-minute reviews. We also have unboxing videos that Esoteric does as well. He likes to buy his collector's edition, so he has that kind of content there as well. Check the description down below. We're going to link both of these articles so that you can read through it and check it out for yourself. We also have our social medias down there in the description as well. So there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Twitch. Twitch is the last one. Mr. Esoteric streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he plays all sorts of games. So definitely check out his channel, give him a follow, and yeah. With that being said, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Catch y'all later.
Take care.